Hello, everyone. This is End Time Counterpoint. My name is Dan. Thanks for tuning in today. In this episode, I want to discuss the profile of a false prophet. There are many existing today, and there have been many in generations before, and they all share similar characteristics. But perhaps the number one characteristic of a false prophet is that he tends to be very narcissistic. It's all about him and all about gaining a following. And that's what they crave and that's what they want. And they will engineer things to get what they want and manipulate people into thinking and regarding them as somebody great and special. Now, in the Bible, in Acts chapter 8, we do have an example of someone who went to great extremes to convince people that he was great. In the book of Acts, chapter 8, we find that a man by the name of Simon in his particular community had bewitched people for a long time into thinking that he was some great power of God. And Luke tells us in the book of Acts that everyone, from the least even to the greatest, considered him a great power of God. And so that's what the false prophets today want people to think. They want Christians to think that they are great powers of God, and whether they do it by faith healings or preaching the prosperity doctrine, which, by the way, the accumulation of wealth gives the impression of power and might, and so that's why they preach the prosperity doctrine. But they also engage in the activity of making predictions and revealing mysteries and secrets and so on, just to make Christians think that they know something that nobody else can know, therefore they must be some great power of God. Now, Perry Stone, in his book about decoding cycles and events and so on, he makes a statement that is really insulting to Christians, and it exemplifies his narcissistic attitude. He says in his book that most Christians understand at a very low and basic level. That's really an insult, but it also provides insight into his profile, and that is he's very narcissistic. One of the things that narcissists have to do is find a way to demean or make people think that they are of lesser importance. A narcissist will always find a way to make his colleagues seem inferior or incompetent, and that gives him the opportunity to solve a crisis or a problem and bring some matter to a definite conclusion. Now, I know this is true because I've had the displeasure of working for a couple of people like this. And it's really sad to see the extent to which these people will go to prevent other people from having success. And that's what a narcissist does in the workplace, and that's what these narcissists do in the Christian world today. They don't want Christians to understand the Bible for themselves because they want Christians to think that they, the false prophets, are the experts, and Christians should just hand over the interpretation of the prophetic word to them. But we must understand that in profile, they are nothing but greedy narcissists, and they will find a way to make themselves appear as some great power of God. Now, when you go to the YouTube channels of Jonathan Cahn and Perry Stone, these channels are starting to look like tabloids. They resemble the National Enquirer. And I don't know if you remember that magazine, but years ago when you were standing at the checkout line at the grocery store, there was the National Enquirer with all these outlandish stories about UFOs and aliens and Nostradamus and all those things. Well, that's what these YouTube channels are starting to look like. And Jonathan Cahn especially uses the word mystery and secret and revelation in the titles of his videos quite often. Why? Because he wants Christians to think that nobody else but him can solve this particular mystery. And so they create the mystery and then pretend to solve it. And it's done to impress Christians everywhere. and gain a following and notoriety in the process. But that is the profile of a false prophet. He wants attention, he wants fame, he wants notoriety, and he wants a following, and hopefully everything else that goes along with it, namely money, because wealth is a form of power. And if you want to appear powerful, then it helps to be wealthy. And that's why Kenneth Copeland is worth over $700 million, and I'm sure that that number is going up day by day. But in addition to being a false and phony prophet, they, in the process, are preaching a false and phony doctrine. And John tells us that if we engage in first accepting and then helping to propagate that false doctrine, we become just as guilty as they are, and we will not be judged very favorably. So what we have to do then is bring to light these things and call these things out in defense of the gospel. You know, Jesus said in his Sermon on the Mount that we should take no thought for tomorrow because tomorrow will take care of itself. But you look at these guys and they're always trying to give the impression that they know what's going to happen tomorrow, don't they? And Jesus said, lay not up treasures on earth for yourselves, but lay up your treasure in heaven. But what are these guys doing? They are heaping treasures together in these last days, if they are the last days. And they remind me of the prodigal son who wanted his money up front. Kind of reminds me of the commercial, it's my money and I want it now. Well, that's what these false prophets are after. They are after the fame, the notoriety, and the money. It's just that simple. And they're selling out the Bible in the process. And if you are a believer in Christ, you need to come to the defense of the gospel. I began seeing this a long time ago, and I've been reading the Bible for over 50 years, and I wish more Christians would really get their act together and just say enough is enough, because too many Christians are enabling these false prophets, and that's why they proliferate in these days. And I urge Christians everywhere to make a defense for the gospel. Folks, you've been watching End Time Counterpoint. My name is Dan. I want to thank you for your kind attention today. If you have enjoyed this discussion, give it a thumbs up. Better yet, subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. I would also appreciate it if you went to Apple Books or Barnes & Noble and search for my book called Blinded by the Rapture. You can find it easily on either site, and I encourage you to get a copy for yourself. It will help you understand and simplify Bible prophecy for you so you can understand it for yourself. So once again, you've been watching End Time Counterpoint. My name is Dan. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I will see you in the next episode.